here is your latest African news. Africa's donkeys are being stolen and slaughtered for Chinese medicine. A popular period drama on Chinese TV has helped lead to the theft and brutal slaughter of millions of donkeys in Africa, a media report has said. It all started when fans of the show Empress in the Palace saw the aristocratic characters using a traditional Chinese medicine called a jiao, which is made from donkey skin. As a result of this program, the demand for a jiao went through the roof, but China simply did not have enough donkey to meet demand. The Chinese then started looking for donkeys abroad, particularly in Africa. When locals didn't want to sell, theft started, with distressed farmers finding their precious donkeys skinned and left to rot. China needs about 5 million donkeys a year to produce and meet the demand for a jiao, and about 3 million of these come from Africa. Angola declares 7 days of national mourning after the death of former President Eduardo dos Santos. Angola has declared 7 days of national mourning following the death of former leader Eduardo dos Santos. President João Lourenço made the announcement describing dos Santos' death as a big loss to the country. The former leader, commonly known as José Eduardo dos Santos, died in Spain on the 8th of July, where he had been hospitalized for several weeks. According to a presidential decree, the national mourning began at midnight on the 9th of July. Concerns as Somalis get high on ants. Police in Somalia has classified a particular kind of ant as a drug after finding out that people were steaming the insect and inhaling their vapor to get high. Odorous house ants, whose scientific name is Tapinoma sessile, are known to contain formic acid. There are accounts of birds appearing drunk after eating large quantities of these ants. Doctors have warned that coming into contact with formic acid can cause dizziness, nausea, and vomiting. Ethiopia PM sorry for failure of a villager's death. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has said his government is deeply sorry that it would not protect civilians killed in recent attacks. Farming villages in Oromia region in the country's west were targeted in a wave of attacks that claimed more than 300 lives. Mr. Abiy, however, said the recurrence of violence was not as a result of negligence by the authorities. The Prime Minister was met with questions from lawmakers on why security forces have repeatedly failed to prevent attacks. Mr. Abiy additionally condemned unnamed foreign enemies and domestic traitors for the country's worsening security problems. Kenya raises criminal age of responsibility to 12. Kenyan children have scored a big win following the signing of Children's Bill 2021 into law by President Uhuru Kenyatta on the 7th of July. The new law, which now replaces the Children's Act of 2001, is a huge reprieve to Kenyan children who come in conflict with the law. To begin with, the new law has raised the age of criminal responsibility from the current 8 to 12 years. The new law also states that children accused of committing minor offenses will not be taken through the court system. Rather, they will be diverted to community-based systems. For cases that are not minor, the law states that the Chief Justice may designate children's courts in counties and sub-counties and appoint a magistrate to preside over the cases in which a child is a victim or complainant. Fresh clashes in DR Congo as rebels dash ceasefire hopes. Fresh clashes between M23 rebels and soldiers have rocked eastern DR Congo, officials have said, as the militia declared that it was not bound by a ceasefire agreement. M23 spokesman Willy Ngoma on July 7th stated that the deal brokered between the Congolese and Rwandese president in Angola was irrelevant. Talks between the DRC, Congo's leader Felix Tshisekedi, and Rwanda's Paul Kagame in Angola on July 6th initially raised the prospect of a ceasefire between the M23 and Congolese government. Violence between the mostly Congolese Tutsi rebels and the DR army has flared in recent weeks. The DRC has repeatedly accused neighboring Rwanda of backing the M23, a charge the country has denied. Court finds France negligent in Caribbean pesticide case. A court in Paris has found the French government guilty of wrongful negligence involving the former use of banned pesticides in the French Caribbean islands of Guadeloupe and Martinique, but denied compensation to those affected, officials have said. The ruling was bittersweet for activists and attorneys who argued that the French government's authorization to use chlorhydricone in those islands was illegal, and they sought damages for the defendants. The lawsuit is one of at least two filed against the French government involving the use of chlorhydricone in Guadeloupe and Martinique. The first lawsuit, filed in 2006, is still pending before the courts and accuses the French government of failing to protect the health of its people and not doing enough to identify the limit effects of chlorhydricone pollution in both islands. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, follow, share, and like this video. It's the best way of supporting us. And remember, Africa is watching. Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah on shortlist for Player of the Year CAF Awards. Former Liverpool teammates Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah are on the updated 10-man shortlist for the Confederation of African Football Men Player of the Year Awards for 2021 to 2022. Mane, who joined German champions Bayern Munich last month, had the upper hand over Salah at international levels this year. Senegal beat Salah's Egypt in Africa's Cup of Nations finals in February before winning their 2022 World Cup playoffs tie the month after. Mane is the last man to have been crowned Africa's best back in 2019. Since then, the awards have been cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Egypt has said that Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid has agreed to investigate reports of a mass grave in central Israel containing the bodies of Egyptian commandos killed during the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi brought up the issue during a call with Mr. Lapid, according to the Egyptian leader's office. Lapid's office said that Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi had brought up the issue in a call after two Israeli newspapers published witness accounts suggesting there was an unmarked grave near Latrun, an area between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, where Israel army fought the Egyptian soldiers decades ago. According to the statement, Lapid has directed his military secretary to examine the issue in depth and to update Egyptian officials. After fighting another war in 1973, Israel and Egypt signed a peace treaty in 1979. Elon Musk notifies Twitter he is terminating the deal. Billionaire Elon Musk wants to end his deal to buy Twitter, according to a letter sent by a lawyer on his behalf of the company's chief legal office in July 8th. Ringler claimed that Twitter did not provide Musk with relevant business information he requested, as Ringler said the contract would require. Musk has previously said he wanted access. Twitter claims that about 5% of its monetizable daily active users are spam accounts. Big fights erupt over Jose Eduardo dos Santos' burial. A row has erupted over the burial of former Angolan President Jose Eduardo dos Santos, who died on July 8th at a Spanish hospital. The dispute arose after President João Lourenço decreed the setting up of a government commission to arrange a state funeral for his predecessors in the capital, Luanda. The family, led by his sons, rejected the plans, saying the patriarch wished to be laid to rest in Barcelona for undisclosed reason. They demanded that their father's wishes be respected. Welwichia dos Santos, a daughter, also opposed the state funeral plan due to their disagreements with the Angolan government. On July 8th, the president said the Angolan government would organize the funeral, and he was counting on everyone, including the family who are abroad, to attend. Amazon rainforest records highest deforestation rates in years. Deforestation of the Amazon rainforest in Brazil has hit a 6-year high, the National Space Agency INPE reports. Some 3,988 square kilometers of land were cleared in the region between January and June. Last year, 3,088 square kilometers of the rainforest were destroyed during the same period. The Amazon plays an essential role in the planet's oxygen and carbon dioxide cycles, absorbing vast amounts of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. Shell ExxonMobil to enforce $1.8 billion arbitration awards against Nigeria National Petroleum Company. An appeal court in the US on July 8 said ExxonMobil Corp and Royal Dutch Shell plc affiliates may try to enforce part of a $1.8 billion arbitration awards against the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited in a dispute concerning oil extraction near the African country's coastline. In a 3-0 decision, the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeal in Manhattan said a lower court judge erred in rejecting the entire October 2011 award, which by 2018 had grown to $2.6 billion, including interest against Nigeria National Petroleum Company. The dispute arose from a 1993 contract for ESO Exploration and Production Nigeria Limited and Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Co. to invest billions of dollars to develop the Era oil fields on the Gulf of Guinea and share profits with Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation. Rwanda Ministry of Health bans advertisements of medicine and medical services. Rwanda Ministry of Health has banned advertisement of health services and talk shows without written authorization from recognized medical professional bodies in consultation with the ministry. In a statement signed by Minister Diane Gashumba, media advertising of medical services and talk shows have become excessive in the mainstream media and on social media. She says the ban covers those who sell drugs through the media. While only about 3,000 traditional healers are registered countrywide, it is believed that Rwanda is home to well over 14,000 traditional healers, raising concern about the quality of service provided by particularly the unregistered practitioners. The move marks the start of efforts to regulate traditional and herbal medicine, which many say has been invaded by fraudsters. The National Association of Traditional Healers says the ban will help restore faith in a practice that has otherwise suffered from rogue practitioners that have exploited desperate patients. Zambia in plan to cancel over $2 billion projects to rein in debt. Zambia is canceling more than $2 billion worth of projects financed by commercial loans to reduce the risk of accumulating more non-consensual debt, the finance ministry has said. The Southern African nation became the first nation to default in the COVID-19 era, and at the end of 2021, its external debt stood at $17.2 billion. It has now entered into negotiation with creditors and the IMF to lift itself from this debt hole. The Finance Ministry published the medium-term budget plan late July 9th, showing that Zambia was in the process of cancelling projects worth an estimated $2.1 billion. It, however, did not give details on the cancellation. The economy of Africa's second-largest copper producer is forecast to grow at 4%, 4.1%, and 4.4% in 2023, 2024, and 2025, respectively. South African police say they have arrested 2 suspects in connection with the tavern shooting over the weekend that left a total of 19 people dead. 15 people were shot dead in a bar in Soweto and 4 others in another bar in Pietersburg, KwaZulu-Natal. But police do not think the incidents are related. The announcement of the arrest came as the Minister for Police, Becky Cele, on July 11th, received a report of the mass shootings. In a statement, the police assured that the arrests of the 2 linked to the Petersburg shooting was a first step of bringing to book all those who orchestrated one of the country's bloodiest weekends. The police said that some of its response team has been deployed to Soweto to assist with policing in response to the needs of the community. It comes amid pressure for the authorities to find those responsible for the killings, with the police being blamed for not doing enough to protect its citizens. Namibian activists aim to stop oil drilling by Canadian Oil Exploration Company. Community Forest and Conservation Organization from Namibia Kavango region are trying to get a court order to stop Canadian Oil Exploration Company, Recon Africa, from further oil and gas exploration activities in the country. The case, which had been postponed, resumes in the High Court on July 15th this year. The applicants also want the court order that the Environment Commissioner in the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism may not allow Recon to drill new exploration wells in terms of an environmental clearance certificate granted to the company. The 4 applicants want those orders to be enforced while they pursue an appeal against the Commissioner's June 15, 2022 decision to approve an amendment of a 3-year environmental clearance certificate that was granted to Recon in August 2019. British Olympic champion Farah reveals he was trafficked to the UK as a child from his home country Djibouti. 4-time Olympic champion Mo Farah has said he was illegally brought to the UK as a young boy and forced to care for other children before he escaped a life of servitude through running. In a new documentary, Farah says his real name is Hussein Abdi Kahin and that he was taken from the East African nation of Djibouti. The athlete said he was 8 or 9 years when a woman he didn't know brought him to Britain using fake travel documents that included his picture alongside the name Mohammed Farah. The woman took him to an apartment in West London where he was forced to care for her children, Farah said. He wasn't allowed to go to school until he was 12. Farah, who represented Britain at 3 Olympic Games, won gold medals in the 5,000 and 10,000 meter runs at both the 2012 London Olympics and the 2016 Games in Rio de Janeiro. Farah said he had feared he would be deported if he spoke about his childhood experiences. He decided to tell his story to publicize the challenge of human trafficking. Farah was granted UK citizenship in 2000 and was knighted by Queen Elizabeth in 2017. Cuba slams US involvement on anniversary of anti-government protest. Cuban foreign minister has accused the US of being involved in efforts to subvert law and order in the country after President Joe Biden's administration welcomed the courage of Cuban protesters who took to the streets last year in array anti-government demonstrations. In a statement on July 12, marking the 1-year anniversary of the Cuban protest, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Washington celebrates the Cuban people and commends their indomitable determination in the face of oppression. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez shot back on Twitter saying Havana rejected Blinken's comments, confirming direct involvement of government of the country in attempt to subvert order and peace in Cuba in violation to international law. Thousands of Cubans took to the streets in the capital Havana and other towns on July 11, 2021 in protest over rising food costs, medical shortages, and dire socio-economic conditions that worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic. In January, the Cuban authorities acknowledged that more than 700 people, including teenagers, faced criminal charges in relation to the protest, including acts of vandalism, which were attempted against authorities, persons, and properties, and severe disruption to public order. Mali authorities arrest 49 Ivory Coast soldiers. Mali authorities have arrested nearly 50 soldiers from the Ivory Coast who came to Mali to work for a contracting company of the United Nations missions in Mali. The government made the announcement on July 11th, calling the Ivorian soldiers mercenaries in a move that could raise tension between the two West African countries. 2 aircraft arrived at Mali's international airport on June 10th, with the 49 soldiers carrying with them their weapons and ammunition of war, as well as other military equipment, according to Malian government spokesman Colonel Abdoulaye Maiga. Maiga added that they were illegally on the nation's territory of Mali, and the transitional government considers them mercenaries. Mali transitional government affirmed in June that it will not authorize the UN mission to investigate ongoing human rights violations in Mali, adding to further tensions as France also withdrew its forces. History maker Okutoyu arrives home to heroine reception after Wimbledon win. Newly crowned Wimbledon girls doubles junior champion Angela Okutoyu landed at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on July 12th to a heroine welcome, one that is usually synonymous with gold medal-laden athletes when they land back home. Traditional dancers, dignitaries, and ordinary Kenyans gathered around the arrival bay at the airport, eager to catch a glance at the latest history maker in town. Okutoyu became the first ever Kenyan to win a Grand Slam when she clinched the girls' doubles at Wimbledon alongside her Dutch partner Rosemary Nijkamp. The duo recorded a 3-6, 6-4, and 11-9 win over the Canadian duo of Kyla Cross and Victoria Mboko at Wimbledon. The youngster was elated over the win and described it as a huge milestone in her career of grass. US border agents used unnecessary force on Haitians. Report. United States border agents used unnecessary force against Haitian migrants along the country's border with Mexico last year, a new federal report has found, after a dramatic scene at the Rio Grande River drew widespread condemnation and calls for accountability. In a 511-page report released on July 8, U.S. and Border Protection blamed a lack of command, control, and communication for agents using their horses to forcefully block and move migrants back across the river last September near Del Rio, Texas. Video footage and photos of the September 19th incident appear to show U.S. agents whipping Haitians, which caused worldwide outrage. Footage captured at the time also showed mounted officers wearing cowboy hats, blocking the path of migrants, and one officer unfurling horse reins resembling a lariat, which he swung near a man's face as he carried a bag of food across the river to a makeshift camp in South Texas. The investigation also found that one agent on horseback grabbed a man and spun him around and acted in an unsafe manner by pursuing the individual he had yelled at along the river's edge, forcing his horse to narrowly escape, smashing a small child to death. The images triggered a strong worldwide backlash and calls for investigation. Africa hails the return of Benin bronzes, but questions remain. Priceless artifacts taken from African nations during German colonial period will be permanently returned. After a century of restitution claims, Germany is transferring ownership of 1,130 bronzes to Nigeria, a groundbreaking step in the return of looted art. The valuable artifacts, sculptures, and reliefs made of bronze and brass, as well as works made of ivory, coral, and wood, were stolen from the former Kingdom of Benin by the British in the brutal punitive expedition in 1897. The royal palace from pre-colonial times was razed to the ground, and Benin City, is what is now northern Nigeria, was almost completely destroyed. Although there is excitement about the return of cultural artifacts to Africa, there are still questions surrounding the payment of monetary compensation for damages caused. Ivory Coast urges Mali to free its detained soldiers. Ivory Coast National Security Council on July 13th called on the Malian authorities to immediately release 49 Ivorian soldiers detained in Mali. Mali's military government, in a statement, said that its forces had captured 49 soldiers who had come into the country from its neighboring Ivory Coast with the intent to stage a coup. Terming the soldiers as mercenaries, the Malian authorities said they had landed in Bamako, the capital, on July 11th without permission. The soldiers were carrying weapons, ammunition, and other military equipment, according to the government statement. However, Ivory Coast contested Mali's claim. It is said no Ivorian soldiers from its contingent was in possession of weapons and ammunition when it got off the plane. Trump ex-official John Bolton admits he helped plan foreign coups. Former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton has admitted on television that he has helped plan coup in other countries, while arguing that the January 6, 2021 riot in Washington fell short of such efforts. Bolton, who served as Trump's national security advisor from 2018 to 2019, did not specify which government he had helped to overthrow, but while in his post, he advocated for U.S. military intervention in Venezuela. Bolton served in the U.S. Department of Justice and State during 3 Republican administrations, starting with Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. He served as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations under former President George W. Bush. Bolton unrepeatedly pushed for the U.S. invasion of Iraq and has voiced support for bombing Iran and North Korea, an interventionist approach to foreign policy that put him at odds with Trump, who fired him in 2019. Rwanda ex-governor sentenced to 20 years in prison for complicity in the 1994 genocide. Former Rwandese governor Laurent Busibaruta has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for complicity in genocide. The verdict comes more than 28 years after the Tutsi genocide of 1994, when he was head of the Kikongoro prefecture in western Rwanda. After nearly 11 hours of deliberation at the Court of Assize in Paris, the 78-year-old was acquitted as a perpetrator of genocide, but found guilty as an accomplice to genocide and crimes against humanity for 4 massacres. Busibaruta, whose trial began on May 9th, was the highest-ranking Rwandese official ever tried in France for crimes related to the Tutsi genocide. He has always denied his involvement in the genocide. Laurent has been in France since 1997 and was under judicial supervision. He has 10 days to appeal his conviction. Ethiopia asks UN to rebuild infrastructure in Tigray. The Ethiopian government on July 12th commissioned a UN agency to rebuild some of the destroyed infrastructure in Tigray, a region in conflict with Addis Ababa and controlled by rebel authorities, as part of a project funded by the World Bank. The World Bank awarded a $300 million grant to Ethiopia in April, funding a project to help conflict-affected communities in the country. The project aims to rebuild infrastructure destroyed by the conflict and improve access to basic services and make it easier for victims of gender-based violence to access assistance programs. South Sudan suspends dredging of Nile tributaries. South Sudan President Salva Kiir has suspended all dredging activities on the Nile tributaries following opposition within his government. Mr. Kiir's order put to end weeks of public debates sparked by the arrival of months ago of a 21-truck convoy from Cairo with dredging equipment, which brought to light the agreement signed in April last year. He noted that after following the argument keenly, he realized the outcry from both sides came because his country had not conducted informed public consultation that addressed the concerns. The 30-kilometer canal project involves dredging an aquatic weed control in the Bahr el Ghazal basin and creating landing spots along the canal. While some argue it will mitigate the perennial floods that displace thousands in unity states, others say the projects will only benefit Egypt at the expense of the South Sudanese. Zimbabwe government starts punishing retailers for pricing goods in US dollars. Retailers in Zimbabwe are further rejecting the Zimbabwean dollar by pricing their goods and services in US dollars, amid a demand by government workers that their salary be pegged to the US currency. The first to fall of a government crackdown on the practice is Schweppes Holding Africa through its Belt Bridge Juicing Company, which produces the popular Mazoe orange drink. On July 11th, the government dealt the manufacturer a heavy blow by penalizing the company for allegedly pricing and selling their drinks in US dollars. In a letter to the company, the Finance Minister Secretary George Guvamatanga said his office had been informed about the claims. This happens at a time when Zimbabwe's economy was already in recession and had contracted by 6%. Output dropped because of economic instability and the removal of subsidies on maize meal, fuel and electricity, as well as suppressed foreign exchange earnings, the African Development Bank Economic Outlook has said. 13-year-old girl gains admission to a US university set to become a doctor at 18. An exceptional girl named Alina Alane has set a new record as the youngest African-American girl to be admitted in a medical school in the US after gaining admission into University of Alabama Birmingham School of Medicine at the age of 13. Alina Alale had previously gained admission to the Arizona State University to study engineering at the young age of 12 years old. After 1 year of studying engineering, she decided to switch her career path to become a medical doctor. She took a full course load in Arizona State University and Oakland University, and after just 1 year, she has already finished 2.5 years of college studying engineering. You go, girl! Morocco claims refugees died of asphyxiation. A Moroccan fact-finding mission has concluded that the African migrants who died in stampedes during the attempt to enter the Spanish enclave of Melilla at the end of June died of asphyxiation, blaming the police. Spanish NGO reported a death toll of 37. Confronted with videos that have gone viral on social networks showing the refugees being beaten to the ground by Moroccan police officers, local authorities told the CNDH that these were isolated cases, but the videos showed a different story. The June 24th tragedy was preceded by a series of violent clashes the previous week during sweeps by security forces targeting makeshift migrant settlements near Nador. This migrant incident is the deadliest ever in the numerous attempts by sub-Saharan migrants to enter Melilla and the neighboring Spanish colony of Ceuta, the EU's only land borders with the African continent. Ex-Gambia spy chief sentenced to death. A Gambian court on July 13th sentenced 5 former members of the intelligence service to death for the murder of a political activist during the rule of ex-President Yahya Jammeh. High Court Justice Kumbasila Kamara pronounced the sentence against the former head of National Intelligence Agency, Yanakuba Badije, after finding him guilty of murdering Ebrima Solo Sadeng, an important figure in the opposition United Democratic Party, in 2016. Badije also was convicted of bodily harm. The agency's former operation chief Sheikh Omar Jeng, as well as NIA officials Babakur Salah, Lamin Daboe, and Tamba Mansari were convicted on the same charges and sentenced to death by the Banjul court. Sadeng was arrested during an April 2016 demonstration against Jammeh. He died in custody 2 days later after having been beaten and tortured. His death galvanized a political movement that eventually ousted Jammeh, who had ruled the West African nation for 22 years. Owner of South African bar where 21 teens died arrested. The owner of the bar in South Africa's coastal town of East London, where 21 teenagers mysteriously died last month, has been arrested. Police in the East Cape province have said. Provincial police said in a statement that the owner, aged 51, had been placed into custody, while 2 employees at the tavern were subsequently arrested. Forensics team are yet to reveal their conclusion on how the teens died, with a source close to the investigation saying one theory was chemical or gastric, and authorities also investigating possible accidental poisoning. The owner is now expected to appear before the East London Magistrate Court on August 19th to face charges after an investigation that focused on the alleged supply of alcohol to minors. ECOWAS Court declares Buhari Twitter ban unlawful. The ECOWAS Court has declared unlawful the suspension of Twitter by the government of President Muhammad Buhari and ordered the administration not to repeat it again. This development is coming on the heels of a suit by Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project and 176 concerned Nigerians. Recall that following the deletion of President Muhammad Buhari's tweet, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, announced the suspension of Twitter in Nigeria. The government also threatened to arrest and prosecute anyone using Twitter in the country, while the National Broadcasting Commission asked all broadcast stations to suspend the patronage of Twitter. But in the judgment delivered on July 14th, the ECOWAS Court declared that it had the jurisdiction to hear the case and that the case was therefore admissible. The court ruled that suspending the operations of Twitter is unlawful and inconsistent with the provisions of Article 9 of Africans' Charter of Human Rights and Article 19 of the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, both of which Nigeria is a state party. It also ordered the Buhari-led administration to take necessary steps to align its policies and other measures to give effect to the rights and freedoms and guarantee a non-repetition of the unlawful ban of Twitter. Nairobi City, named among the world's greatest places of 2022, a must-visit. Time magazine just released its prestigious World Greatest Places of 2022 list, and Nairobi has made the cut. To compile the list of world's greatest places, Time solicited nominations of places from the international network of correspondence and contribution, with a special eye towards those places offering new and exciting experiences. Nairobi is one of 50 places on the list for its cultural metropolis, with Time calling it the safari capital of the world. Time notes Nairobi's many exciting experiences, such as the Nairobi Contemporary Art Institute, Eden Nairobi, and Kwetu Nairobi Curio Collection by Hilton as reasons for the peak. The magazine also highlighted the brand new Nairobi Expressway, the $650 million project that provides a long overdue reprieve from congestion in the center of the city, so residents and visitors can access it more easily and quickly than ever before. Afro-Colombian politician tapped as ambassador to Washington. A veteran Afro-Colombian politician who studied in the Soviet Union and fled his homeland after being kidnapped by a paramilitary group has been tapped to become Colombia's first black ambassador to the US. In a brief message posted on Twitter on July 12, leftist President-elect Gustavo Petro wrote that Luis Gilberto Muliro will take Colombia's most important diplomatic post when he's sworn into office next month. Muliro, 55, has a long record maneuvering in Washington power circles, having established himself there more than 2 decades ago when fleeing death threats from right-wing paramilitary groups. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, follow, share and like the video. It's the best way of supporting us. And remember, Africa is watching.